Hey everyone, welcome back to Tiny Bubbles, the Mole Recap podcast over here on Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent.
The Tiny Bubbles, the Mole Recap podcast.
Oh, we can hear you. There we go. I'm like, is that me? Is that what I sound like? You might have the YouTube link open, Matthew. Let's introduce Matthew while we're here. He's already on his MB, his molish behavior.
Hey, I'm new to this. I don't know how to work all these technology things.
MB, molish behavior, and Matthew's
My first
initials,
sabotage.
Yeah, I cannot handle too many sabotages at this time of night on a Sunday. So if you could keep it like somewhere between like a will level and not as high as a joy level, that would be phenomenal. Matthew, welcome to our show. How are you this evening?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to talk about it. We have a lot to talk about.
Sure do.
We definitely do. And then I'm, as always, joined by my co-host, JD. JD, how's your Sunday night?
Hello. I just got back from work, so I am ready to do anything but think about work. And talking about this last episode of The Mole, perfect opportunity to just let all of my worries go away. So excited to be here.
I heard the perfect way to de-stress is to rob a bank. How do you feel about that idea, JD?
Sign me up. I'm there. I don't know how to drive, so that can't be my job, but I could definitely make my way through some lasers.
So that's the team you would want to be on?
Honestly, I mean, if just tell me what keys to look for, I got you from there.
Well, I guess we will not see you on The Amazing Race anytime soon then, because if you're not driving cars, you're kind of useless for that show. But we're not here to talk about The Amazing Race. We're here to talk about the mole. First and foremost, let's explain why we've got Matthew here as our guest. Matthew, your fandom goes back as long as mine does. I know this because we were in online Facebook games together playing the mole when you were like very young.
I was very young, playing with like a bunch of college students. I think I was in 8th grade. And I was
I remember you doing polar plunge swim club in the mornings. So you're like, I can't be up late for this one because I have to swim at 5 a.m.
Sounds about right.
Jeez.
But Matthew, like most good moles, is a lawyer. So clearly between his MB initials for molest behavior, being a lawyer, and you were the mole in Sequester's mole version, right?
Yeah.
You have some mole
season. I was one of the moles. I always get picked to be the mole for some reason. I think people think I'm just sneaky.
You are.
I think it's because you're a lawyer.
We're just known for being backstabbers, I guess. I don't know.
I guess that's the association.
It's funny because for Sequester, I did not know I was going to be a mole until about 3 seconds before they went live. So I had a panic attack right before the show started because I did not know I was going to be the mole. And then we just went from there.
Did you win, right?
No, I didn't. It was wonky.
Oh. All right. Well, your history with the mole, tell us about it, because I know that you've watched way more mole than I have.
Yeah, so it started when I was really young. I remember I would watch it come on. My parents would watch The Apprentice, yuck. But the mole would come on after The Apprentice. And I remember watching it and being obsessed with it. I think this was maybe the celebrity editions. And then after that, I watched all of the American ones. I've seen all the American ones. I've seen all of the British, all the Australian, the majority of the Dutch ones. So I'm very versed in the mole world, and it's one of my favorite reality TV shows.
Who is your favorite mole of all time?
So I feel like this is a lot of people's answer. Who do you think am I going to say? It's an American mole.
I was going to say, I don't want to say the person's name because then I think I know of at least a couple of my friends who have started watching The Mole and now are listening to this podcast, but I've never watched a season of The Mole before
good to know,
Friday.
I was about to just start saying that.
Yeah. So I have a feeling you're going to say the mole from the first season.
The mole from the first season is iconic. I always that's definitely my favorite mole.
Yeah, I think that's a right answer. If someone had a different opinion, we would say you're wrong.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so excited to have you.
Who's your least favorite mole from the United States?
I mean, so the only other mole I can remember, I can't remember the season 2 mole, or any of the celebrity ones. My
And then-
memory for a TV shows, once I watch it, gone. Like it is there for the season and then it's gone forever.
Oh, well, you're in for a
So-
treat because I have so many things that are from those seasons that I'm finding in this season that I have like so many parallel comparisons. So
That's why you're here. That's
Yeah.
why we wanted
let
you
me
to
remind
be
you of the
here.
things that
timing.
Perfect. Wait, so JD, do you have a least favorite mole?
I'm like the opposite of you, where I can remember like the celebrity moles and the season 2 mole. I can't remember the season 5 mole, so I guess by default.
Oh,
I'll
I
say
know
the-
who that mole is. That's the only other mole that I know.
Oh,
So,
okay.
season 5 is definitely my least favorite.
Yeah, and our group chat was talking about that like within the last 24 hours of
That
just
was the
how
season with
bad
Nicole
season
on it,
5
right?
was. Yeah.
Love Nicole. That's about all I remember
Nicole
from that
carried
season.
that season.
She really did.
I still follow her on like social media. She's killing it. She's like a doctor in Chicago, living her best
Nice.
life.
Oh,
That's
she's
what's
near
up.
me? I should find Nicole and see if like, hey,
Get her on the
let's do
podcast.
a live podcast. Are you watching the mole, Nicole? Oh wow. I've been reaching out to the eliminated players with no success, but
No
maybe
luck.
I'm just like down the wrong path in terms of who to reach out to on Instagram. So
Oh,
we'll
we should reach
try.
out.
Have you tried their LinkedIn's?
No, I need
Go
to.
up to her
JD, if
hospital.
I actually wonder what hospital, because like I work at a hospital now, so I maybe and when I'm there could not be if it's within the reach. But we're not stalking anybody today.
No.
We start stalking on Mondays. Tonight, Sunday is meant for episode 4 of the mole. All right. I am very eager to get into this because if any of you listened to our episode 3 coverage with Paul, he said specifically, Kari, I cannot wait for you to find out who bid $25,000 on an exemption.
Were you
Fucking
shocked?
joy.
Yeah.
Fucking joy. Like, so I didn't want to spoil JD because I didn't know if he had watched it or not. And we had like a group chat for this podcast. So I like messaged Paul individually and I just was like all caps locks, like the cat meme, just like batting on my keyboard.
Yeah.
I cannot
honestly,
believe I can believe it, but cannot believe it in the same breath.
At
I
this
mean, would the
point,
mole
I'm
do
like,
that? Is the mole that bold?
I'm starting to think so, is the thing. Like, at this point, Occam's razor is just Joy is the mole. And I'm like, there was a plane in the first episode. Joy is a pilot.
I mean,
Like,
she's getting this edit. I was telling Kari before we started that I feel like I'm watching the Joy Show. Like, I mean, she is the star of this show.
She surely is. I agree.
But
And
doing
Matthew,
well.
I think you asked a great question, which is, and Avery brought this up as well, like, can you actually be this bad at this game and not be the mole? Like, Matthew, where do you fall with this? Because I feel like you had mentioned something from a different series that like a mole did something similar in this exemption thing. Am I correct when
yeah, so
that
I don't know if you
brought
remember,
this up?
our little mole group watched Australian season 6 together, kind of similar how we're doing now. And the mole, and that's, I mean, I guess this is a spoiler if you haven't seen Australian season 6.
I watched it and didn't even remember.
But
So
the mole would
spoil me.
The mole would blatantly take exemptions in that season. And I just put my blinders on because I said, the mole would not be that obvious. So I just kept on saying no to that mole. And then that person was the mole. So this season, I'm not, if someone's being obvious, like we're just going to have to take it for what it is. But yeah, that's happened in past seasons. Now, bidding $25,000 and your pot's $27,000, I've not seen that before.
That was incredibly bold.
And poor Dom.
Dom's like, I hope you said my name. I hope you said my name. Like Dom and Will especially are just absolutely shocked by Joy's behavior here.
Yep.
And I mean, again, Avery has a point. You've done nothing positive for this team. Like she has not put any money in that pot. Completely negative. Absolutely negative. I've been saying it from the very first episode, and I think I'm going to be frustrated if Joy is the mole because it's so obvious, like you were saying, Matthew.
It's like season 5. It's like season 5 where I just refused USA, where I just refused to accept that person was the mole because it was so obvious. So when that mole did reveal themselves, I was just like, well, this was anticlimactic.
Yeah, it's a little underwhelming if you kind of are able to identify the mole like super easy, and like you kind of like try to convince yourself that that person is not the mole, just so you don't have to deal with the reality of how underwhelming being so obvious turns out being.
Right. But hopefully we're wrong.
Fingers crossed. But I'm on the joy of the mole train, I think, after this episode.
So can we talk about the only reason I don't think she could possibly not be the mole is can we talk about who got evicted, or is that are we too soon?
We are talking about coming up. Yeah, you can say it
It's pretty much
in this
scene,
episode.
right?
If it's in this episode, that's fine. Just don't go into episode.
Oh yeah, so I have
territory.
seen. I have all the things I can't say in red, so I don't spoil episode 5. But Dom was evicted, and who do you think Dom went for on the quiz? Who do you think Dom he did not? Who do you think he went for?
I think he said he went for Avery.
Oh, I thought he said. Okay. Oh, I thought he would have. I thought he would have went for Joy 100%.
I think he went for Joy the first 2 times, but he did say that he switched it up this time around, and I think that switch up was for Avery.
Yeah, when he was talking to Alex on the way out, he said, I switched up who I put my question and based off of the new information that I got. So if it was not the $25,000 thing, but the Avery Gronk spiking the oxygen tank for absolutely no reason, then maybe that's where he went. I'm not sure, but he didn't say names, unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
He just went a different direction.
Yeah, I feel like that they did some editing with that just to kind of make it seem like so we wouldn't know who he went for, but
yeah, and the first 2 people that were eliminated said in their voiceovers during the quiz that they went for Joy. So I get that that's some big evidence as to why it might not be Joy, but I'm still not convinced that that's true, because you can have these voiceovers and say things, but I saw Joy bid $25,000 and take that from the pot. I saw Joy take a map and basically just be like, what's a map? You know?
I mean, the thing about betting the 25K is that you could easily have punted it. Like Dom said it, you could have chosen Dom because 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, Dom isn't looking at the dossiers. So he was a safe chance to bid. Choosing Greg, of all people, you have to think that Joy wanted to lose that money.
Well, she wanted the exemption.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, I don't.
She did say I want to stay here for another day. And my argument last episode was, listen, if I'm leaving here with 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever, because I've won, that's 20 grand more than I'm leaving with. But I almost feel like my argument is now negated, because really, do I need a paycheck for $3,000 after spending 3 weeks roaming around Australia?
Right.
Because that's kind of what it's looking like right now. We are not leaving here with more than 10 grand.
You still get to hang out in Australia for a month.
Yeah,
true.
So
I have a question for you guys. Even though I think I know the answer, would you have looked at the dossier?
I would have.
Yeah, I would have as 100%. Well. Yeah. Now I want to bring up a question about looking at the dossiers, because we sort of talked about it, is that Joy picked Greg as the person who looked at them. So we know she was truly going for it, because everyone was like, if there's one person who looked at these, it's Greg. So here's my question. Did Avery get away with looking at these and no one finding out?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, so I think so was she the only other one who didn't look? She's the only one.
I believe. Yeah, I think it was only Greg and Avery.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me that they didn't all look. Especially when the questions say, what is the zodiac sign of the mole?
Yeah, what?
How are you supposed to know that?
Yeah, I was sitting there and I didn't think of this the first time I watched it, but the second time, Avery flips out on Joy, which is funny because she prevented 10K from being put in, as well as Greg, but she's just going in on Joy. However, it never comes up that Avery also looked at this. Greg even kind of gets away with it, but Joy, Avery gets away with it. She's not brought up at all, which is, if anybody made the best move in this situation, it was Avery.
100%.
Because in general, Avery jumped on the top of my suspicion list this episode. She was not on my radar until this episode. But
Interesting. So I did love that we had Will forgetting that he was on the mole, and he was just like, Greg's not here for the right reasons.
Kari, I have that. I have that written down in my notes. This is what he says. He says, hold on. He's not a team player. He's not here for the right reason. He plays for himself. I'm like, what show are you on?
The Bachelor. That's the right reasons is straight out of The Bachelor.
Like, that. I'm like, why are you? I started cracking up laughing when he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love how Alex just dips. She's like, okay, gotta go. Like,
Yeah,
fight
like,
amongst yourselves. I'm out.
See you.
Like, hopefully no one like gets murdered because of this. As Avery is like, tell me what your game plan is.
Joy handled herself well. Like, I don't have to tell you shit. Calm down.
Yeah, she really did. Which also, like, if you're able to keep that calm under that much pressure from 9 other people, that's a great makeup of a mole.
Do you think that the production is telling her, like, hey, if she is the mole, you need to like kind of cool it? You're kind of doing the most right now? Or do you think the production's like, this is on you. You make decisions. We're not going to tell you what to do.
I think either way, like regardless of whether or not she is the mole, production's loving what Joy's doing. Like, because that's what the intention of like the entire environment is supposed to be. Like, you're supposed to want people like at each other's throats as they try to figure out who the mole is, and Joy is doing her best to stir that pot. So I'll give it to her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very, very disappointed if it's her, unless the show kind of changes and we get to see more suspicious people, because we'll see. I mean, she's a good mole in the sense of that she's lost a lot of money, but not a good mole in staying under the radar.
She's the kind of person where, like, your coworker, where you're like, can you stop going 100% at all times? Because it's making my like 60 to 70% look bad. Like, I just want to coast, and you're not coasting. Like, you're making me keep up at a sprint, and I'm at a jog right now. Like, just pump the brakes a little. Like, there's going to be no more money for them to lose if Joy keeps joying.
Joy keeps joying.
What are they at right now?
Like 3,500 or
at this
something
point, they're
like that.
around like, yeah, I think Kari's right, like 3,500.
Yeah, because they had 28,500 going into the bidding, so 25,000 less.
So if she's not the mole, she's done more sabotaging than the mole.
Right, and that's another thing that's interesting to me, because I think we said it last episode. It's like, is the mole being successful, or just like they bad at as a team, like, just bad at making money, which we see in another mission that like they could have had a pretty easy 10K. However, we get some like individual agendas getting in the way.
Oh, so you disagree with the decision that was made there?
Oh, I did not say that yet. I don't. I could be swayed either way. I want to talk about it, but hold on. Let's see if we got anything else in our post exemption that we need to. Well, yeah, because we have some things we need to talk about before we can even get to that little mission. So after this, we get Greg saying that he's like happy everyone is caught up in Joy's drama, and which again, he like kind of gets away with things that is surprising he's getting away with, but like Joy is overshadowing with her moves. But we go to dinner and the elimination. So we don't see much of dinner. However, we did see that there was food on their plate. So I like when we actually get to see that they're like being real humans and eating. I think of the circle in that last episode when they sit in that like dining room table and there's 5 plates and there's like, they never even get bread or anything. So like, good on the mole for actually feeding people. But we check in on people as they're taking the quiz. And before we get into this, do you think it is fair that the person who gets the exemption doesn't get to take the quiz? Like, wouldn't you want to just like take the quiz for fun, as if you had the exemption?
Yeah, I see what you mean, because if you're not like sitting down and looking at the questions being asked, that's potential information that you're missing out on. You know, I don't know if they like repeat questions. I feel like they have to do a couple, because how many different sets of 20 personal questions can you ask before you run out.
True.
Yeah, so overall, I do think Joy should have at least gotten to look at the quiz, even though her results would have been inconsequential.
Do we know that she didn't? I don't remember.
Yeah, Alex said everybody's going to take the quiz except Joy because she has the exemption.
No. I feel like that's how it's been on like every season of The Mole too, regardless, right? So I don't think that's like a change.
Yeah, I just was thinking about it of like, oh, well, I just paid 25 grand for this exemption. The least you could do is let me take the quiz as well. It's a pretty expensive exemption, but yeah, I was just thinking about that. So we get some insight on who people might be putting their questions on. Now, obviously, like these are voiceovers. Who knows what's true and what's false? But Greg says that Joy is on his list and might be at the top of it. Sandy thinks that the mole was on the water team, which would mean that she thinks the mole was either Will, Casey, Jacob, Greg, or Joy. It's actually a pretty decent list to pick from.
Yeah, statistically, you should have picked that team.
Yeah.
I do want to say, though, like, Sandy was on that plane with Kasi and Avery, yet she doesn't suspect either of them for missing that dinghy that Pranav seemed to point out pretty easily.
Yeah. That is suspicious as well. I'm not disagreeing with you. Sandy had an episode. We'll get into that.
She did.
And we have Dom was leaning Avery, but thinks Joy made a bold move. Will thinks Greg participated in mole behavior, but I think like Greg's like status quo as a human, probably outside the mole, is mole behavior. Like he just doesn't strike me.
Probably.
Yeah, that's why I've been calling JD literally this whole season is the agent of chaos. Greg did make me laugh later this episode when
he made me laugh too. He's growing on me. At first, I did not like him.
Yeah, I don't know if he's growing on me yet, but I think he's just becoming like, I know what to expect from Greg now. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't surprise me when Greg makes a comment later of like, Sandy only speaks when spoken to. I was like, oh, the misogyny.
Oh, I know. I went,
yeah. So like, it annoyed me. Absolutely annoyed me. However, I was not surprised. And I think that's where I'm getting to with like, oh, here's Greg being like kind of a jackass again. But
it doesn't shock me
Greg.
that Robin casted this show because that is
Greg, did she?
The gay guy she wants on her show. But we love Robin.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Matthew, like you better watch the Robin.
I love Robin. I messaged her about the mole.
But
I know the gay guy she casts on all of the TV shows she does.
He sent me a screenshot of him messaging her, and I was like, please be on season 2, Matthew. Do whatever you have to do. Yeah. I am 100% behind you on this.
I'm on board.
Yep, absolutely. So, Avery thinks Joy could be the mole, obviously, because it was funny how Avery said it to me, because Avery just described Joy's behavior in the way that I'm describing the mole, the TV show, the premise of what the specific mole does. So like anybody who hasn't watched it, where she says like the mole is not adding to the pot and she's taking money from the pot. Like, yeah, that's exactly what the mole is supposed to do. So if you just take that sentence in complete isolation of everything else, like Joy's the mole. Joy is doing everything the mole is supposed to do. Just not discreetly, not subtly, in the slightest.
But you would think, I would feel like they would give her a better edit, but I guess you can't edit out that you paid $25,000. Like there's no way for production to make that more subtle.
Yeah. They're like, can you maybe like put the decimal after that like second zero? So it's just 250. Like, can you just put a period in there real quick? And Alex is like, too late. I already saw it. So we get them back at the dinner table, and I liked that they only made us wait 3 people, because when you make us wait till the end, it's like, oh, the first person's not going to
eliminate
the second person.
Out. Like the first episode, I think they went through like 9-10 people.
Yeah, it came down to the final 3.
Yeah.
And this one, our third person was eliminated. It was Dom Cruz, as he called himself.
Rest in peace.
Matthew, what was your opinion on Dom?
that he didn't know the game at all, and that he's great for Survivor. I think like he's like very like a team player, like wants to win comps, but like I don't think he really knew what he was in for. But I liked him.
Yeah, I think Dom
when it showed red, I went, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think Dom was more here for the adventure of it all than to actually like play the mind game behind it.
Like I can tell
Yeah.
some people take this test and they're playing it statistically what you should do in the first 4 episodes, where you just like do the odds, like you answer the questions based on the odds, and then some people just go gone 100% on one person. And I think the first 3 people that have been evicted have definitely just gone 100% on one person, and that's why they've been out. But that's just my guess. I don't know.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it went at all. I would love, like, dude, put it up behind a paywall and I'll pay it. Like, let me see these quiz results. Like, let me see these quizzes and their answers, please. I would gladly, like, you want $20 Netflix? I'll give you an extra $20 to see that. Please, let me see. Yeah, for me, Dom, and I've said this on previous episodes, it's like, it was so clear he wasn't the mole that, like you said, Matthew, like he does understand this game. And then especially when he was, were they called the masterminds?
They were
in that
called
episode?
masterminds, yeah.
Yeah, like that enough. Like he just didn't understand how like the money doubling, the taking away, and like, oh, this person might be the mole for this. And I'm like, a mole is not going to do that, Dom. I just don't think that he watched any prior.
I honestly don't think most of them watched
Yeah.
any prior mole. I think they're very much recruits that are trying to be influencers. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Oh, yep.
I did a little work last night.
Do we get a job update on Dom? Is he still a what was he before this?
He lives in Toronto and is a warehouse worker, but is also a musician. That's what I saw yesterday.
Oh.
So
a little more variance between the model, actor.
Yeah, but still trying to get clout.
Yeah,
I looked at everyone's yesterday because I was talking to Katie, fellow silent podcaster, about the mole, and the majority, I would say at least 7 of them, have something in their Instagram bio that is not what their job says it is. Like even Greg's is like, I think his says sales manager or sales something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me scroll up. I have it here. Greg is a marketing consultant, and his says like yoga, Reiki, what's like I don't know if it's Pilates, but like like that type of coach. Like he's not. I don't know. There's a lot of them. I think like really the only ones who aren't is Casey. She's legitimately a nurse. Who else did I see?
Casey is the only person that I have never once suspected. So watch Casey be the Casey.
Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier, and I think everyone has thrown some sort of suspicion at someone else except for Casey. Like Casey, I don't think has caught anything from anyone.
But she's done some shady things, like when she didn't bring the people back for the phone when Greg told her to. Cassie's actually a computer analyst. Jacob is actually a firefighter, but his Instagram is built for him to try and get acting jobs. So it says like firefighter by day, but it actually says like actor right under his name.
Gotcha.
Avery is actually a gamer. Joy is a pilot, but she seems like a pilot who's trying to be like an influencer as well. Like she's like, it's like fit mom, fit pilot, fit something.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sandy does something like she's very Christian and is something with like therapy, which she's listed as a sales manager. So I don't know how that got connected. Yeah.
That's a jump.
Will, we've talked about, is like trying to do online stuff. Pranav has listed that he did engineering and law stuff, but he has under his thing like content creator, online creator. So I think he's trying to do all of that. So yeah, a lot of them were taken from Instagram. Absolutely. It might have like some background in what they say they are, but are really not. So.
And it feels like that, but it's still good. It's still fun.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying them.
It's not the worst thing, I think, for like a first season, because I don't think it's like that bad to have people, at least the majority, who are like comfortable in front of cameras and are used to like that type of thing, because build up something that people are excited to watch again for those of the majority of the population who did not watch the original in 2001,
Mhm.
and then like hopefully start casting some more actual fans. I just don't know like if Netflix has really caught on to that based off of their other shows, because like I think with The Circle, Alex was telling us that he was the only actual application that they took. Everyone else was recruited off of Instagram. So, Matthew, get your influencer game. Step it
I'm
up. Oh,
trying.
you do have your YouTube.
I have a YouTube channel, so
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
So we just need to like really promote the shit out of that and get you some
Yeah.
followers. We'll do that at the end.
You can add this
let
podcast to your resume.
Yes. All right. So Dom is gone. What did you think of Dom and Alex's conversation on the way out?
Your mom would be so proud. I was like, okay, like let's calm down. Like
I'm not sure how proud my mom would be if I was the third person voted out of anything.
It's like Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last. His dad's like, I didn't say that. I must have been high when I said that. I do think, and I know I've said this every time, but I am loving Alex. I am obviously always going to be hesitant when you like Anderson Cooper was such a pivotal part of the mole being the mole when it first came out, but I just thought in this conversation, especially when he was like, I'll miss you. And she's like, I'll miss you too, Dom.
I feel like you could tell that Alex really cares about this gig, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I would love to get Alex on here postseason.
Oh,
I better start.
What did she do before this? I mean, I'm assuming
I think she's like an NBC anchor person, like maybe MSNBC.
Like some sort of newscaster for sure.
Yeah, Alex Wagner. I'm looking up on Twitter because I know I looked her up earlier. Host of Wagner Tonight, 9 p.m. on MSNBC, author of Future Face on One World, and Worried Mom. That's what her Instagram bio says. It doesn't even say that she's host of The Mole. Girl, get that in your bio.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, the advertisement wasn't great.
Yeah, we were talking about that like didn't get an email that The Mole was starting, and I get emails from Netflix about really dumb shit that I would never be interested in, and I didn't get one about this.
We'll see.
All right, so Dom is gone. R.I.P. People seem sad about it. Pranav had that really dramatic moment where he's like, the person who like cared the most is gone, and the person who like took the most is here, exempt. It's poetic in the worst way possible.
I think
they needed one good line.
A lot of their confessionals are very much, you can tell production has scripted it for them and tells them to like say, kind of like Big Brother when they're in like their diary room. Because like some of their confessionals, I'm like, they don't feel genuine. It feels like someone wrote them for them, but that's just my opinion on that. And it comes across kind of superficial when they are in the confessionals.
For sure. What did you guys think about Cassie's line about if he wasn't that fierce, then he should have still been in the game? Because that line really got to me. Like, what did Cassie mean by that? I'm not sure if I'm skipping ahead or if it was in this moment.
Yeah, I think that came up when like his mission came up. But we can like let's get into that right now. So the next day they're like road tripping in the middle of Ravenswood, which the only reason I remember that is because that's where there's like a neighborhood in Chicago called Ravenswood, and that's where I taught. It's where Nitro goes to dog daycare. So they're like driving through the desert in Ravenswood. They go to this bar, and while they're at the bar, we cut to a car that's supposed to be bringing Dom to the airport, but it ends up pulling over like across from this bar. And Dom gets presented with this challenge of, hey, there is a one-word password. It's on the bumper sticker of your car. If you can figure this out, you'll get back in the game, and you'll split $10,000 in the pot. Here's a radio. Here is a folder with things in it, and the radio will connect you to the other players. You're going to need them to get back in the game. So we find out that there are 10 cities listed, and there are 9 questions, and each question matches up with a player still left in the game. And if each player answers honestly, then that city will be crossed off. There'll be one left. That's the password. Dom's back in. 10K for the pot. You've got the heart and soul of your team back. So that's how this is presented. And so Dom like radios in. The people are like, wait, what? Huh? What's going on? Dom, is that you? And he explains, and he goes, all right, Pranav, where's your favorite sports team located? And Pranav is unfortunately an Eagles fan. As we know, Eagles fans are the fucking worst. So there's a little, minor flaw with Pranav, but he doesn't hesitate in giving the answer. He's just like, Philly, fly Eagles fly, over. So then Dom's like, I need my girl Sandy. What's your favorite city in the United States? And then Sandy, who only speaks when spoken to, according to Greg, which fuck you, Greg, is like, wait, so if we give him the answers, he comes back in? And they're like, yeah. With $10,000? Yeah. But he had a hit list, which I feel like she could have worded better to make her point at first. But he had a hit list, and so he's out because he didn't know who the mole is. So he definitely knows that whoever he was voting for isn't the mole. He has an advantage. And then you see other light bulbs going off within the group of oh shit, I didn't even think of that. But Kasi is in her confessional, the point that you made, JD, of, well, he couldn't have been that good of a competitor, because if he was, he would still be here.
I mean, I would have taken that line coming from pretty much anyone else besides Kasi and Will, but it seemed like Kasi and Dom were close. So her saying that line threw me off. And we see later on that Kasi is one of the few people who actually wants to bring back Dom.
Did y'all catch how Joy was said that, you guys, it's $10,000? I'd be like, girl, you just $25,000, don't even. And no, everyone was just like.
She goes, it's $10,000. It's a lot of money. Yeah, it's 15 less than what you took last night, Joy.
Damn it, Joy.
Yeah, you do not get to talk to us about a lot of money right now, Joy. That is just not something you're allowed to do. Her saying that, she just was like, here are my balls. I am putting them on the table. It's a lot of money. Joy, stop. All right, so let's get into this conversation that we alluded to earlier, because Sandy starts it of, no, we can't let him back in. More people start agreeing that they shouldn't allow Dom back in. And JD, what do you think of this? Do you think that Sandy instigated the right idea, or are you like, Sandy, what the hell? You guys have $4.68 to your name right now. Bring Dom back in.
I don't know if this is necessarily indicative of mole-ish behavior, but I do just from a gaming standpoint, we're already one person down, bringing them back, plus the advantage, despite the fact that money will be added to the pot. As someone else in the game, I would want as few obstacles in my way, and Dom being added back into the game would just be another obstacle.
Yeah, what do you think, Matthew?
I would have never let Dom back in the game. And if Sandy turns out to be the mole, I'm not going to let that be a sabotage. I think that that just doesn't make any sense to me. I think, why would you bring someone back? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Mole or otherwise.
I think the only thing that I would have been potentially considering is Kasi's point, which she didn't make out loud, but I probably would have been thinking the same thing of okay, we know that Dom isn't the mole because he went home. 2, he's going to try his hardest to get us money, and we don't have a lot of money. And 3, I'm going to beat Dom in something that is about intelligence. You know what I mean? It's a quiz. It's not like we're playing 1v1 basketball. Is it worth bringing him back in knowing that I am very likely able to beat Dom in the quizzes and have him be re-eliminated before I'm eliminated? But that would be the only thing running through my mind. Then be like, nah, Sandy's right. She spoke up. Let's just stick with Sandy. I don't have to be the bad guy. She's the first bad guy.
I'm really anti buybacks on Big Brother, Survivor. I don't believe in that. You're out, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
No. But that's just my opinion. I hate watching that on reality TV where they bring people back.
Edge of extinction, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sandy brings this up, and I think like she does, it's the point of the fact that he knows at least one of the people left are not the mole. So
And you guys think it's Avery. Because you think he went Avery on the test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think he probably went Joy on the test. I
think so?
I
think he might have put a couple questions on Joy.
I'm hoping that he did that, and we're just going to be so surprised at the end. But
yeah, I mean, I would love to be surprised. It's just like not to go full like teen emo Instagram quote on anybody here, but when someone shows you their true colors, believe them. And Joy keeps showing me mole colors. Like it's just hard for me to not believe her. Yeah. So if her goal is to be as moley as possible, she hasn't told us that. Like Avery has told us, oh, I'm gonna act like a mole today, and Pranav has alluded to it as well, where Joy hasn't said that. And so to me, it's just like Joy is either the most obvious mole I've ever encountered, or they're just not making us privy to her gameplay, because I think that would also frustrate a lot of viewers of like, you're being so bad. It's almost like not fun to see people walk away with $30 in a Happy Meal. Like, because that's where they're at.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for you guys to see episode 5.
So after Sandy brings this up, Casey agrees, and then Jacob is the next to jump on to this. And then it comes down to basically a group vote, as Dom's like, hello, like, team, you there? Yeah, it's hot in here. There's no food. I need snacks. And they do a group vote. So things that came up in the group vote, Pranav is like, I'm on the fence. Greg switches his mind because at first he's like, we need money. And then Greg's like, actually, no, just kidding.
I'm shocked that Greg was like that. I thought Greg would be like, no, goodbye.
Yeah, I thought Greg was going to be straight up no.
Yeah. Avery says no. So the only yeses were Kasi, Joy, and Will, I think, by the end of it.
That's who I have down for that. Yeah.
So Avery delivers the news, and Dom is like, well, shit, I figured this out on my own. So here I have a question for you guys that I thought about. If you're Will and you want your boy back in, why are you not like, read me my question? I'll still give you my answer.
That's like, what I was confused about. Could Kasi, Will, and Joy, since they voted up on bringing Dom back, could they not just have asked Dom for the questions that were relevant to them?
I would have if I was Dom.
I mean, it's not Survivor or Big Brother. It doesn't matter if everyone hates you. You're not going home by that like popularity. It's more how you do on the test. So if they wanted to help them, I think they could have.
And so I'm surprised that Will, who is very outspoken, didn't just be like, okay, well, fuck you guys. I just said he's a great person and all this, like, give me my question at least. And I bet you Joy would have followed. I don't know if Kasi would have. I think Joy would have at least been like, yeah, I'll give an answer, mostly out of guilt for what she had done the night before.
Yeah, I agree with that.
10,000 is a lot of money.
It is. It really is. So Dom's like, all right, I got to figure this out. And I was kind of surprised. Dom narrowed it down to 2 cities, and one of them was the right answer. Were you rooting for Dom in this moment, Matthew, to get it correct?
I don't believe in buybacks. Like,
not even like the Hail Mary buyback? Yeah. Where like...
Well, because then we know he's not the mole. That's just not fun. Like, you lost. Goodbye. See you at the finale.
That's fair.
JD, what about you?
I would have been impressed if Dom essentially won the coin flip. And I mean, Dom's coming back into a group of people who the majority just voted down on him coming back. So that dynamic would have been fun to watch. But ultimately, like, I feel like it was Dom's time to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too mad at losing him here.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of phrasing it. Like, keeping Dom around to me doesn't do much for me. Even if he hadn't been voted out, like, I think Dom's character had like kind of peaked within the arc of this show anyway.
Mhm.
How many times we have to hear, "Oh, I'm Dom Cruise" and this and that. We still got a Tom Cruise reference in this episode.
I
When
wrote
Dom
that
left, I'm like,
down.
finally it's done. And then Will's like, I feel like Tom Cruise. I'm like, shut up, Will. Like, just
The
shut up.
specter of the cruises will continue to follow us for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I just don't think he's like adding much to like what's going on, that it would have been cool that he pulled it off, and then it's like, oh, okay, but it's
Yeah.
Dom pulling it off, so what's he adding? But he ends up guessing the wrong one. By the way, I definitely would have guessed Seattle if it was the middle one and the bottom one left, because like it, to me, it would be too suspicious that the bottom one was like the wrong answer. Like, oh, you're telling me all the right answers were the first 8 or 9, or like first 9 in a row? Nah, I'm picking the one in the middle.
Where is Melmore?
Okay, I was about to say that too. I've never heard of that city. I don't want to sound dumb.
I don't know it. Let's see. Google Maps. Google Maps, when I maps.google.com, when I've been opening it lately, says that I'm in Moldova. Oh, it finally put me where I am. What a time to be alive. Memore.
Like the country in Europe?
Yeah.
Moldova? Interesting.
Do you have a
Wait.
VPN?
No, I tried one of those to watch Love Island, and it literally like destroyed my old computer. So I had to like start from I had to reboot everything. Me and VPNs, just, you know what? I'll find it in a different way. Was it spelled Memore?
Yeah, I've got Melmore is a census designated place in central Eden Township, Seneca County, Ohio.
Oh, yeah, it didn't even come up on Google Maps. So
What was the question for that?
Oh, I have no idea.
For that to be the answer.
Yeah, honestly.
Name a place in
All right.
Ohio, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Who? Oh, Jacob's from Ohio. So.
Oh, is he?
Can we talk about Jacob's last name?
What is it?
Hacker. And I am waiting. If he is the mole, I am waiting. This is going to be one of those references to season 1. In season 1, one of the clues was, okay, I can't spoil it, but they used the mole.
Spoiler on season
Spoiler
1
alert
right now.
for
Like,
something that
fast
happened
forward
21
30
years ago.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, say everything you want to now. Go ahead, Matthew.
So, and Anderson Cooper comes on and goes, the mole's 4th victim paid the price. And then the mole was Catherine Price. So if there's any competition with a hacker, or there's some mention of a hacker, I promise you that's going to be a clue in the coming episodes if Jacob is the mole. Because hacker, come on, hacker.
Yeah, that's
a
layout
mole
for
last name.
a pun. It definitely is a mole last name. I agree.
All right, we're done. Spoilers.
Welcome back. All right, so after all this, Sandy was like, I feel so bad. And Will was like, you feel bad?
With like the biggest smile on her face too, she says it. Like, are you sure you feel bad?
Yeah. I loved it though. I was like, go off, Sandy. Mess with these people. Speak when you're not spoken to. Use your words, girl. So after Alex comes in and she's like, oh, well, Dom's not here, so I guess you guys are still poor as fuck. That must be nice.
Like, essentially, that's what she said.
Yeah. She was like, still have 4 digits for your pot. So
which is Greg made a funny joke in the car.
Oh yeah, when he was like, we can't
get back to the United States.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, none of us can even afford, not even one flight. Yeah, that was funny. So Alex comes in and says, first things first, you have to pick the best critical thinkers because you are performing a bank heist.
Woo!
Okay. JD, I know you want to rob a bank, but do you think that, or who would you have picked? Let me reframe it. Who would you have picked as the 2 best critical thinkers from this group?
From what we know of how all of these people operate so far, I definitely would have agreed with the group in tapping Pranav for this challenge. I just feel like we don't know enough about Kasi and how her brain operates for her to be the other option for that. I mean, I would have said Pranav and Avery, but I feel like that gets shut down for good reason. Mm-hmm. So from who's left, I feel like everyone left is kind of a risky pick if all we get is pick your best critical thinkers. I would probably pick like a Greg, but that's risky. I feel like after the whole like shutting Dom down thing, Sandy becomes a little risky. But yeah, those are probably between. It would probably be a coin flip between those two.
Got it. Matthew, who would you have picked?
Pranav and Avery.
Yeah.
But the fact that the second she said, what's the host's name again?
Alex.
When she said, we need to, like, Avery jumped up right away. And that's like, it's almost like she was told, like, you need to be in this position so you can sabotage. So that's what like made me nervous about her. She like instantly jumped into it. And that's
that is true.
So you think producers were like, you got to do this?
Well, they tell you. We learned that from like season 1 and season, like they tell you like this is you want to be in this position because it'll be your best opportunity to sabotage.
Yeah,
she jumped on it right away. They shut her down. So that's when she first started making me nervous. But then more things in the episode made me even more nervous about her.
So, when Avery offers herself up as, she was like, I would love to critically think for you guys. I thought it was a weird way of like framing that. But then Will was like, well, then people are going to say Pranav, and you two are clearly close. So what do you think of this alliance that we've been let in on being so known amongst the group? Like, Matthew, do you think that's a good thing, bad thing? Like,
it's not Big Brother. It's not Survivor. What can they do? I mean, except for what Will just did. But, you know, like if you can try to keep your alliance a secret, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I think Pranav and Avery will be in the final 3. That's like my gut is telling me that they're both going to be in the final 3.
With Joy the Mole?
With Joy the Mole.
I can see that.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think you should tell people your alliances, but if they find out, what can they do about it? Except, you know, split you up. Unless you think one of them is the mole, why are you splitting them up? You know,
but I feel like I feel like the logic kind of goes the other way, where you shouldn't be splitting them up if you know they're working together, because that's increasing the amount of information they're getting.
Yeah, and they obviously they trust each other. There's not 2 moles. Or is there?
Yes. Plot twist. Actually, there's 9 moles and 1 real player. So
Joy is the real player.
Yeah.
Oh my! That'd be hilarious.
The moles meet and they're like, Joy's taking our job. she's doing too much. So Will gets very vocal and is like, no, but Avery, I don't want you there because we definitely want Pranav there and we can't have the 2 of you. So Avery, despite you stepping up as a leader, not today, sit back down.
Speak when spoken to.
Yes, exactly. And then Will's like, well, what about Kasi? And people are like, yeah, she's smart. She's a computer analyst. Like, sure. And they're like, well, would you have good chemistry? And Kasi's like, well, we're both engineers. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, we actually like make out. Like, what do you mean do we have good chemistry?
I think Kasi might have taken that question to be, did they both do well in undergraduate chemistry?
Is that the moment she said he's very politically charged?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I did not understand that at all. Did I miss an episode where they talk?
I don't think that it came up. I just probably like in their own conversations, and maybe because we're told that he's a law student, so you'd assume that a law student cares more about politics than an engineer does.
Okay.
That's like,
I just like was very confused because I was like, did I miss where he made a political statement? Like, I don't know. I was just confused.
I take it to mean that like Pranav is someone who is very like observant and like maybe more like puts more care into what his perception of like social dynamics are. Like he wants to make sure that he's understanding like where things lie and like who's talking to who, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just like a weird way to say that. Because
that was very weird phrasing.
Negative connotation, like
politically charged. I agree. That I took it as, oh, maybe at these dinners or when they're like hanging out by the pool, that like, is Pranav wearing a MAGA hat and we're not seeing it? Or is he over here like pushing liberal agendas? What is it? That's how I took it. But he is, at least according to the mole, which like is not according to his Instagram, a law student. So maybe that's it. I'm not sure. But the group ends up agreeing like Kasi and Pranav are going to be our 2. And the 2 critical thinkers now have to divide the group into 2 groups. So you have the cash team and the gold team. So Pranav creates the gold team. He wanted to work with people that he was confident in, because then if something goes wrong, he thinks that that's like a place that sabotage could happen. And so he works with Avery, Jacob, and Sandy. And the gold team is Kasi picking Will, Casey, Joy, and Greg. So Kasi said she's skeptical of Joy and Greg, and she knows like Will is going to go all out. So she has someone she trusts. But she's definitely skeptical of Joy and Greg. So, all right. First question for you, Matthew, is which team would you rather be working with? Would you rather be working with Avery, Jacob, and Sandy, or Will, Casey, Joy, and Greg?
Do you mean work with them to try to figure out who the mole is, or who I would think would be a better team?
Who do you want to rob a bank with on any given Sunday?
Avery, Jacob, and Sandy. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Same
You
here.
agree, JD?
Same here. Yep. I do not want to be on a team with Joy and Greg. Are you kidding me? Like one I could maybe handle, but both of them at once, no.
You do have Will and Casey to balance it out.
But I still have Joy and Greg, is the other part of that sentence.
Okay. Yeah, so here's our teams. Is there anything else, JD, that you want to mention about the 2 teams that have been created here?
Yeah, I find it interesting that the entire purpose of Avery not being one of the critical thinkers was to split her up with Pranav, but she ends up on his team anyways. Like, sure, they're not directly communicating with each other, but they're still responsible for like the same things and still working together in some capacity. So that was just a little like thing that I got flagged for.
Yeah, I understand that. And I guess it's because like Will isn't there to be able to say no when Pranav and I just forgot how to say your name, and I've been doing so well. Kasi, Pranav and Kasi. I took a second.
I don't really get why Will said that. It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, I mean,
no.
I think
Will...
Will
is also on Survivor, like mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, he already has the hair for it.
Yeah.
That's true. Jeff would love him. Jeff Probst would love Will. All right, Matthew, anything you want to say about these 2 teams?
I will say that there was an opportunity to sabotage, like this, they were sabotaging everywhere. I think they were all the mole during this competition. And
yeah, let's
absolutely.
Let's get into it then, because the cash team is tasked with exactly $10,000, 10,000 US dollars. And this seems easy at first because the vault is unlocked. They just have to walk in. They didn't have to jump through lasers. And what they find is that they have currency from like 7 different countries. And so what Pranav's critical thinking role is really just doing math in converting the different currencies and telling his team how much to count out, because it has to be exactly 10,000, not $1 more, $1 less. So Pranav is working with his team. The only person he actually talked to, though, is Sandy. Sandy has the headset. So she is relaying communication to Avery and Jacob through this. The other task for the gold team is first they have to go through these laser beams, which we'll talk about in a second, because this is like where Greg had his best moment for me. And then they end up in a room with like hundreds of lock boxes and like 3 rings of keys that have numbers on them but are not in sequential order. And they have to find 10 nuggets of gold. And if they find the 10 nuggets of gold, they'll win $10,000 for the team. So those are the 2 missions. Let's start off talking with the cash one, because I think that was like kind of interesting in terms of this task and just all the opportunities for sabotage. So Matthew, I know you said that there is so many opportunities. Where do we start? When you are watching this, what are you thinking?
Okay, well, first I want to say that because you guys don't know if they passed or failed, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and don't tell any of us.
Right. So I do know. So I'm going to try my best to just talk about this as like I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Okay?
pretend you didn't watch episode
All right,
5. The
so-
fact that I've watched episode 4 and not watched the first like 2 minutes of episode 5 twice, someone put a gold star on the chart for me. I deserve it. Anyway, go ahead, Matthew.
There was just, it's a lot of money, a lot of dollars. Someone could have easily slipped in money and made it messed up. The thing that made me so uncomfortable with it was how Avery said that she caught Jacob, but I don't know if she corrected Jacob's mistake, or if she did not correct his mistake, and because she said she wanted to hold on to that herself, and I don't know what she did with that. So, and it was just weird to me because they never really clarified. Because if you caught someone making a mistake, would you have fixed it?
Yeah, I feel like it was sort of implied that she fixes it just because she seems so like I don't know what the word is for it, but like so attentive to it.
So she just like put $1 in and like fixed it and just didn't make an issue about it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I do want to say that like just because she's correcting Jacob's mistakes, who's to say that she isn't making mistakes of her own?
She's getting a great edit where she's saying how she's either fake sabotaging or catching other people sabotaging, but that's just making me more suspicious of her. That's why this whole episode, I'm just like, my red flags have been going off for her.
Yeah.
Also, Sandy had such an opportunity because she was kind of like off in the corner by herself.
Yeah, it was like Avery and Jacob on the table and then just Sandy on the floor somewhere.
She was a boss. Greg was wrong. She was running stuff. She was telling people what to do. So
she was though, yeah.
And Sandy did have a slip up where she said that the Vietnamese money was worth 500,000 and it was really only worth 50,000. And Pranav was like, "Hey, like you need to count out 50 of these because that makes like this much, or maybe it was 23 of these and it makes this much money." And he was like, "But just checking, you said 500,000." She's like, "No, I said 50,000."
I had to rewind it to see which one of them made the mistake because I
Me
didn't
too.
know Bob or her.
I also did because I'm like, all right, I need to know. And Sandy was the one who did say 500,000. It was her. And I thought it was interesting that Sandy's like, the easiest place to sabotage is from the top here. When I was like, girl, you guys are counting to like 10,000.
I mean, I feel like Sandy is still correct, though, that the easiest place to sabotage is from the top because all you have to do is give one piece of misinformation and everything gets thrown off. Like, regardless
I don't think that like anyone had it easier. I think everybody had the easiest opportunity to fuck this mission up because it's literally a single bill that you have to throw in and that's that.
Everything's done, yeah.
Now, what did you think of Jacob being like, you know how Pranav is when Pranav's like, count this in 7 minutes or else? And he's like, tell him we'll be done when we're done.
Obviously, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not getting to see because they obviously have very strong opinions about each other. We just aren't being shown that on the show.
Yeah.
Like, clearly we don't know how Pranav is.
Like, apparently he's politically charged. He's he likes things done in an efficient way.
You know how Pranav is. Jacob gets snippy. Like he was like feisty with Greg with the boat. Like, I'm doing what you should be doing, Greg. I'm searching for treasure, whatever. Jacob is not afraid to just give it to these people. He has a little bit of some sass and attitude to him.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we need to say about this mission? Like, what do you think of this mission? Do you like this mission, JD?
Are you kidding? I mean, my tag right now is JD wants to rob a bank, and like I was just like, why couldn't I have been in there? Why couldn't I hop on a flight to Australia to Ravenswood and get to rob a bank? This looks so cool. I would have had a lot of fun.
What I love about these missions compared to seasons 1 through 4 or 5 is that they're not jumping out of airplanes and doing all these crazy things. It's literally like an escape room. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like, I don't have to jump out of an airplane or bungee jump. And it's like, it's more just like logical and it's like not as terrifying. But because don't they all feel like escape rooms to you? Every single mission?
Yeah, at least, that type of thinking, which is definitely cool. So let's head over to the gold team. And as we mentioned, they're supposed to steal $10,000 worth of gold. They have to go through these lasers, which it almost just seemed like an unnecessary but funny addition, because like the other team was just like, oh, the door's unlocked, sick, we get to walk right into
Yeah,
our
like the
vault.
other team had zero barrier for the
Yeah.
actual task.
And this team is like, no. You actually have to be Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible and go through these lasers. If they set off 3 lasers, their mission's over right then and there. They're caught red-handed. So, okay, I didn't know if I just got robot-y because it looked like Matthew Bros. But anyway, we're back. And Will goes first. He triggers off a laser. Then Joy gets through, and here is Greg. Let's talk about Greg here. Greg is like, flashback to gymnastics since 12th grade. We've got yoga, we've got dance, we've got, I forget what the other thing he says, but like I was made to like I was made to shine. This is my moment. Greg kills me. He's like, all right, first laser, chair pose. Second one, like Cobra Kai, as in like just whatever it was. It wasn't Cobra Kai.
I mean,
it was like
full-blown yoga routine for this like 30 seconds where Greg is making his way through the laser labyrinth.
And then the third part where he's like, suck your tummy in like you're at the Jersey Shore in a bathing suit. I feel like this was the first time that I was like laughing with Greg in a way where I didn't just want to also be like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is so good. Everyone gets through with that like one laser being triggered, and then they get into the room of all these lock boxes. And we find out that Kasi has a logbook that has like 300-ish names in it. Mm-hmm. And they have the keys. They have basically just like, okay, I guess we'll just start unlocking things. But what we come to find out is that there's 3 names that Kasi needed to get the team to like figure out, unlock their box. That's where all of the gold would have been. They would have been done. Now, I have a question for both of you, but Matthew, do you think sabotage is happening in this mission? Do you think Kasi is just like, what the fuck?
I would not have got the only one. Dorada would have been the only one that made. I can't even guarantee it would set my brain off. All the like G-locks, the Emperor, like it was. I don't think
King Midas, yeah.
I don't think she sabotaged it. But
what do you think?
What was she doing though? Was she necessary, or were they just opening up? I didn't understand. Were they just opening up?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about it until we started talking about the fact that they were critical. They were supposed to be critical thinkers, because otherwise Kasi's task seemed pretty straightforward. Just like relay the numbers that she has to the group and see what comes out. I don't think in the moment I would have realized anything other than the Dorado. Like, I didn't even realize they had like first initials listed too until Alex talked about it later. Yeah, so I mean, I don't particularly fault Kasi here for not picking up on something that, in my opinion, was not very well hidden, but it was not obvious.
Yeah.
My one issue was the last name Locks. I don't care what letter is coming before it, but like they're literally unlocking locks. Like what? How do you not at least try that
all
one?
Of them to that? Like, did she go through every name?
No, at least what we saw didn't seem like it, because they're like, what are some of the names? And she's like, Crawford. And so like, okay, 34 Crawford, let's try that one. So it seemed like they were just, I have this key, I have this number, let's unlock it and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, if she is the mole, she did a good job. But I would not have known. I would have read the list of the whole group, though.
Yes, that's, I think, where she messed up, where like, all right, I'm going to start saying this out loud. I'll say a name, and then who is she talking to?
I think Casey had the headset.
Okay, yeah, and then like Casey repeated out.
Oh, no, which one is the nurse? She's the nurse.
Yeah,
Casey.
Yeah. I think that would have been like the only thing that Kasi could have done differently, that if she wasn't going to recognize these names, at least give everybody else the opportunity to, clearly there was nothing else. And I don't know. I'm leaning towards no sabotage, but at the same time, if you kind of like add up the other things that Cassie's been involved with, like Cassie was on the window side and didn't see the date twice. Cassie was in, or no, Cassie with the she was the up high group.
Cassie was the up high group. Yeah, she helped set that case.
Is there anywhere else where Cassie has been like kind of shady?
She was in the first group that got out of the jailbreak, I believe.
No, she was one.
No, she was on the team that didn't.
Yeah,
she didn't even get out, or they barely made it.
Right.
But that was also on a team with Greg and Joy. So
yeah, and Joy said that she didn't see the key outside the thing. So
she's the way like you would want to be the mole. If she is sabotaging, it's very slight, so you don't really know. Like that's the ideal mole.
Yeah.
Not Joy just going crazy.
I will say though that I think it was just those 3 names that she needed were highlighted. I'm not sure if I would have picked up on the names themselves, but the fact that they were highlighted was something that would have stuck out.
Were they highlighted, or did editing do that for us so we would notice it as they were like scanning the page?
I don't know. They seemed highlighted to me. Like
they like turned gold.
Yeah, to me it felt like it was like something that the editors did for us.
Okay, maybe.
Because I was trying to figure out, because Dorado was in all capital letters, Lox was in all capital letters, but Midas was not. Yeah, so I was like, oh, is it something with like how it's written? And it wasn't. But I picked up what you were talking about. I think that was something that the editors did for us so that we would notice, like, as they were scanning the list. But that was kind of, it was definitely, I don't know if it's hard as much as it's like weird. Are you thinking that way? Because none of them really scream. The only one I would have picked up on was Midas.
I would have picked up on Dorado. And with the like initials, I don't think I realized there were initials until after the fact. I'm not sure if Cassie realized that there were initials until after the fact, but it was El Dorado. So like that would have just run clear to me.
Yeah. So needless to say, their group found nothing. They were not successful. And when we go back to the cash group, they at least have a product to bring out. Whether or not it is correct, that is our cliffhanger for this episode. But we meet back at the pub, and Alex explains to the gold group, like, these were the names you needed. They're associated with gold. Will was like, I would have recognized El Dorado. And Joy's like, I told you to think outside the box. And I was lame at Cassie. And again, like, I don't know if it was sabotage or not, but I don't think it was exactly like necessary. I don't think that Avery, like if you replace Avery with Cassie, I don't know if Avery picks up on that either.
No.
So,
and I mean, Cassie is, in my opinion, nowhere near the only person who should be taking fault for the gold team taking the L here. Like, out of however many boxes you checked in, what, like 50 minutes, not one of them you lucked into had gold in them.
Yeah.
Like that, like, sure, you could say that maybe Cassie skipped over them and didn't tell the group to check that box. But I mean, they each have like their own set of ramps. They weren't just like randomly trying stuff and seeing what opened.
Right. And I think the other thing worth noting is like Greg was really the only one advocating for like there has to be something with names. Like there has to be something. And everyone kind of ignored Greg in it, which no one else really was advocating. Like Cassie said, the only thing I have here is this logbook. And for people to not have her like read it out loud and just be like, oh, read a couple of the names. Well, there's 300.
Yeah.
You know how long it would take to read 300 names? Probably 5 minutes at most. That, like, instead of just shooting blinds, like,
yeah. I mean, sure, they could have gone about it like that way and a little more systematically, but at the same time, you're not just like rattling off all 300 names in one go. Like you're going to do like 3 at most at a time. So either way, it would have still taken a ton of time.
Yeah, I could have read through them all and see it, like, because Will is claiming, oh, if I heard El Dorado, I would have been like, wait a second. Someone else might have picked up on Midas. I don't know. I just think that like their mission was hard.
Yeah.
Can I jump back to the cash one real quick? Because I noticed something. Another season 1 spoiler.
Yes, please.
for it.
If you are not wanting to hear a season 1 spoiler,
Okay.
go ahead, 30 seconds.
So you're gonna think this is silly because it is silly. But in season 1, our mole, Catherine Price, was trying to make a decision, and she said, "Let's just pull the trigger." And it turned out that they were actually gonna shoot something. And in the finale, Anderson Cooper was like, how did Catherine know that there was going to be a pulling the trigger? Because y'all didn't know that at that point. And the cash scene, when they were wrapping up, Pranav says, just put all the money in the bag. And then he goes, is there a bag? Like he knew there was like a bag for all the money. Without even a bag. And it just like when that happened, it reminded me of that Catherine Price moment. It sounds silly, but just.
I mean, you might be onto something.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying that Joy is the mole because there was a plane in the first episode. So, like, anything goes here.
Yeah.
Truly.
All right, spoilers over.
Yes. Welcome back. No, that's a great point. But we are left with this cliffhanger. We don't know if the cash team was successful or not. Matthew knows because he's watched episode 5. JD and I do not know because we have made the resolution of watching as we podcast. And so, JD, do you think they were successful?
I mean, the fact that it has to be exactly $10,000, I think the room for error is just almost non-existent. That I don't think they did. I don't think they made it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I will be interested in finding out how far off they were.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Because if they're like $1 or $2 off, then that's absolutely suspicious. If they're like $100 or so off, like that's just like someone fucked up somewhere.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So I'm definitely interested in seeing that. I don't know if I'm going to watch it tonight or if I'm going to watch it tomorrow morning. I kind of want to watch it tonight, but I don't want to like watch it twice and take notes if I don't have time for it. So we'll see. We'll see. But
it's a good episode. So I think y'all will like it.
I mean, I've loved everything so far. Absolutely loved everything.
Yeah, I'm eating this season up so far.
I know, Matthew, that you haven't really been on Twitter. JD, I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I was like, I just realized Taylor Swift's new album and the Mole season finale comes out on the same day. This is my Super Bowl. Given it's my, and then I put a caveat. I'm like, this is my Dallas Cowboys list Super Bowl because I'm a big Cowboys fan. And so obviously if they're in the Super Bowl, then like that's my Super Bowl.
That takes precedence, yeah.
Otherwise, this is my Super Bowl. Taylor Swift, the Mole, all in one day. Like,
when are we getting
October
a single?
21st. Yeah, we should be getting a single soon. I would assume so. Maybe this Friday.
We'll see.
That would make some sense. I am getting sick of like Taylor talk because it is just becoming too much. I
like spectating the whole fandom of it all. I'm not a big Taylor Swift listener.
I was enjoying spectating until like everyone has gone off the deep end with this Lavender Haze thing that I've needed to step away. And I could do a whole other podcast on that.
Yeah.
I will not bore the non-Taylor fans with that. But if you are interested, I can sit here and monologue all of it for you. But we'll get back on track. So let's wrap this up in the way that we always do. Matthew, who do you think is the mole after episode 4? Don't use your episode 5 knowledge. Episode 4.
Oh, I've been a good mole in this podcast because I've done a good job of. I know what people have predicted.
You have not alluded anything.
I've been talking about people like they're still in the game. So, you know what? I every time I watch this game, I always go against the obvious person because I don't want it to be the obvious person. So I'm gonna have to stick with Joy until I change my mind later. So I'm sticking with Joy.
We've been doing like a top 3. So if you want to have 2 other guesses, then you're allowed to.
Joy, Jacob, and Avery.
All right. Why Jacob? We didn't get a lot of Jacob this episode.
No,
it
not
was
really.
a first instinct that I can't articulate. That
we did talk. I mentioned that on our first podcast that I like talked about our group chat, and I was like, my whole group chat, everyone I've talked to has been like, yo, Jacob's weird. Like something's off about Jacob. So
Yeah,
I had said that you had said
and
that.
you're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. The second I just my gut went mole.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he did have the like Avery saying that he miscounted. We don't necessarily know if he miscounted. We have Avery's claim that he did. So that's like really the only Jacob stuff we got this episode.
Joy is suspicious of Jacob as well, I believe.
Mhm.
I think she did mention that.
Yeah, and then I know you said your suspicion with Avery has increased, especially with this episode. So give us like your top 2 reasons why it's Avery.
I think it's Avery because she's getting I think Avery will definitely be in the finale. I think Avery's getting an amazing edit, and she's blatantly saying she's sabotaging things, like leaving the fire extinguisher, and she's making
He called it a fire extinguisher too. JD, did you hear that? He called it
Yeah,
fire extinguisher. I called it a fire extinguisher till JD's like, I think it's oxygen tank. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm
that
pretty sure there's
makes sense.
oxygen.
Well,
They're
whatever. She
underwater.
left.
I'm not sure fire
I
extinguishers
think-
work in the water. I think
Yeah,
water's a fire extinguisher.
she's just getting a good edit, and she's sabotaging and letting us know. So like almost like we're building trust with her, but she's blatantly being like, yeah. So that's why I think Pranav is suspicious too.
Yeah. Water is a fire extinguisher itself. Thank you, JD. No, Matthew, I did it for like the whole time I was talking about it, and JD's like, I think it's an oxygen tank. I'm like, that makes a lot more sense than it being a fire extinguisher for what's going on. JD, have your mole opinions changed with episode 4?
Have. I'm gonna say Jacob, just out of the principle. I've been saying Jacob for the entire time we've been podcasting. I do think that Jacob is still not out of the clear as far as suspicion goes. I mean, he's one of the more subtle players in the game. I feel like that's obvious.
He's getting the edit. He's getting a great mole edit.
Mm-hmm. If we are to trust Avery, there's one moment this episode where he tries at least to sabotage. He's encouraged Money to get lost from the pot through the hint in the first episode. And yeah, I mean, Jacob has been incredibly under the radar. And I mean, you can't ignore that when trying to figure out who the mole is. Number 2, Joy. There was a plane in episode 1. I mean, after it's taking nearly like 95%, I don't know if that math's right, like taking 95% of the pot in one fell swoop and not being the mole, like what are you thinking? Like what is the thought process behind doing that? And my third one, I remember saying my third one was Pranav when we talked about episode 3. That's changed to Greg. I think Greg is almost in the same boat as Joy, where it's almost a little too obvious. But there was a moment that's like within the first 5 minutes of the season, there was a moment where we have everyone like sitting down for their first set of interviews, and they all like take turns saying, "I am not the mole." Greg is the only person that I did not catch saying that they are not the mole. I went back and rewatched earlier today. And Greg is the only person. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free.
That could be a clue.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But literally all other 11 players, like including Nose, including Samara, including Dom, like all of them said, "I am not the mole." So for that reason alone, Greg has shot up to that number 3 slot.
I mean, he's been doing moley things. He
has,
wore a life jacket as a diaper. So I'm... That's very moley to me. No, that is definitely interesting and something I will highly consider because I've been flying the Joy mole plane for this whole time. But yeah, I mean, I just don't understand how Joy can't be number 1 when I did the math for you, JD.
Mm-hmm.
She took 96.5% of the pot.
Jesus.
In this episode. So like this episode alone, she's done that. Like Avery said, she's been, I mean, the only mission I think she's actually been successful in was the jail escape, the jailbreak one.
Barely. If Casey
their
doesn't
group was
push for that
last.
5 minutes to be added, Joy loses that for her team.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a pilot that can't pilot, as Ose said. So I've said it already in this podcast. I'm going to say it again here. when someone shows you your true color or their true colors, believe them. And I just don't know how we can like not believe that Joy isn't the mole. Like it just it's being served to us on a silver platter. Do I hope I'm wrong? Yes, because I think it'll be far more exciting for me to be incredibly wrong. I'm not advocating for Joy to be the mole. It's just I cannot bring my brain to think anything else.
Who's your second? It's Joy. Say who's if it's not
Like,
Joy.
what's your top three, Kari?
My top three is Joy, and then I want to stick with Sandy because that was like one of my gut things at the beginning as well. And she's done some shit. I mean, like she led the charge today. She could have very easily been doing mole stuff, telling the 500,000 instead of 50,000 in the bank. She led the charge with like not wanting Dom back. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Sandy. So I'm going to keep her as my number 2. And then my number 3 is Pranav, just because like he spelled berserk wrong. He's like, he put himself in the middle. If you're supposed to be so trustworthy, then like, why are you in the middle of the seat and not looking out the windows? Like, what are you accomplishing by sitting there, except I guess leaning over Avery and seeing the plane? Yeah, I just think that he would make a good mole because he is charismatic, smart, and I think like you kind of want him on your side. And I think a good mole you want on your side.
My friends just started watching, and I got a text message that says, "I don't like Joy."
That's funny. So yeah, Pranav's my number 3 for now. But
Pranav would be a great mole.
I agree.
Yeah.
He would be amazing.
Truly. But that is our recap of episode 4.
Thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you have to promote your YouTube channel so that you become an influencer and you're on season 2 of The Mole. Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel called Reading with Matthew if you like books. That's my bookshelf.
You did get
it is a great bookshelf
earlier in the comments.
I'm pretty sure that was one of my friends making fun of me.
Well, if it is, listen, there's plenty of other things you can make fun of Matthew for. That shouldn't be it. It is a nice bookshelf and just overall great background for podcasting. So I definitely support it. JD, what are you doing online today or any day?
Any day. I like to podcast because there's some logic to what comes out of my mouth, at least some of the time. You're not going to find that on my Twitter. But if that interests you, anyways, you can follow me at Dead Crush without the U. That is DEADCRSH on Twitter.
Nice. And I'm KGD26 on all the platforms. So last night, okay, quick sidetrack. JD, I don't know if you saw this. Matthew, you wouldn't have because you are not active on Twitter, but I put up the question, do you think that I am shorter, taller, or the same height as Danny DeVito? And I want your answers.
Same height.
I hung out with you in person multiple times.
Yes, you've seen me. Like, we have pictures together. So do you think that I am shorter, taller, or the same height as Danny DeVito?
I'm going to say same.
Yeah, I think same height.
So on paper, we are supposedly the same height. We are both 4'10". Technically, my iPhone says that I'm 4'9" and 7/8. Which
Wait,
is
how do you get that from your iPhone?
Yeah, I have no idea. But I went into the health app like a couple years ago. Well, like I hadn't before last year or the year, I don't know, the year before. Like I hadn't been to the doctor in a while because like needles scare the shit out of me, and I knew I'd have to get shots. Like that's literally the only reason I didn't go. And I don't need someone to tell me I need to lose weight. Like I see me every day. Get the fuck out of here, doctor. So I hadn't gone for a while. So it was in between the time of like me going to doctors, and it said, and when you go into the health app, you go into like body measurements, and it said 4 feet or 4.9987, I think, feet, which ends up being 9 inches and 9 7/8 inches. So I was like, how does it know this? So I don't know, but it's in, you can check your health app on your iPhone, go into body measurements, and it's there. So on paper, we're both 4'10". I'm technically an eighth of an inch shorter than that, but I think I would be taller than Danny DeVito if we went back to back. I'm just saying. So That's what's going on my Twitter right now. Feel free to participate in that poll. You don't have much time left. Actually, it might be over because I did it last night. Otherwise, in terms of silent podcasts, I recorded with Katie last night about the Real Housewives. So we talked about the Beverly Hills drama. We talked about the beginning of the Salt Lake City season. So definitely check that out. We'll be back next week because Potomac was on tonight, and we all know that Potomac fucking brings it. They are hilarious. Is arguably the best franchise currently. So we'll be back with more Housewives coverage next week. And then the challenge comes back, the MTV version, this Wednesday. And Katie has begrudgingly said she will cover that with me until she decides it sucks too much to cover it. So we'll have at least one episode of challenge coverage this season, and then we will go from there. So TJ Hates Quitters is coming back hot on Wednesday night with coverage from the first episode. So you can hear me in other places on Silent Podcasts. But
when is episode
here's where you can
5
listen to us.
Consisting of this one?
Say that one more time.
When is episode 5 video happening, and who's going to be co-hosting?
Wow, Matthew, you made such a great transition. Tomorrow night is episode 5 coverage, and we have Alex from The Circle coming on, so that is exciting. Yes, we have a fellow Netflix star coming on to talk about Netflix, and so yeah, that's gonna be tomorrow night at the same time as this one. So like 10 p.m. Central or Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. We said, right?
Yep.
JD, confirm my schedule for me. Thank you. Oh yeah, because I have to tutor. So tomorrow's a busy day. So yeah, that's tomorrow night. And then we've confirmed our guests for next week as well. So we have silent podcaster Naomi coming on for episode 6, silent podcaster Katie coming on for episode 7, and then our dear friend Nate coming on for episode 8. So we've got a bunch of different guests for you. Very excited about next week. And then like after that, it's the finale, which is crazy. So super excited. All right, let's talk about where you can follow, listen, subscribe, all that. So Twitch and YouTube, search Silent Podcasts, subscribe. We just hit over 2,000 followers, which is very exciting. There's the Big Brother interviews that our Big Brother crew did with Taylor and Monty. So definitely check those out. The Taylor one is amazing. I didn't get to listen to the Monty one, but I've heard it's good as well. We're also on Twitter, silent_podcast. So follow us there. And then if you listen to us in podcast form, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or any other ones, rate, subscribe, give us 5 stars, or do not rate us at all. Leave us a little message. But yeah, this was definitely a 5-star episode. And I think all of our episodes, honestly, have been 5 stars. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing, JD. I think our guests have been bringing it. So thank you, Matthew, for coming on. And especially bringing your like season 1 flashbacks of clues, because now I have to like rewatch.
I'll message them to you, Kari, so you can bring them up in later episodes.
JD, do you just want to like join our mole group chat? Because
honestly, sign me up.
So we have it broken down episode by episode, but yeah, Matthew, thank you. JD, as always, it's been great. We will catch you guys tomorrow night with Alex from The Circle. So check us out then. And then until next time, enjoy your evening and thanks for listening. Bye.